Hey, this is Eric with Techno RV, and today I just wanted to have a conversation about how to determine the correct tire pressure for your tires on your RV. So whether you're in a bumper pull, a fifth wheel, or a motorhome, there's only one correct tire pressure for the load that you're carrying. So the proper way to determine the tire pressure that you need in your tires is to get your RV weighed. And the proper way to do this is to get weighed at each tire position. Because RVs are built oftentimes with big slides, they can not be balanced. You could have an 800-pound slide on one side of the RV and a 400-pound slide on the other side of the RV. And not to mention how we pack our RVs, it can become very unbalanced. So across an axle, you could have one tire that is carrying a heavier load than the tire on the other side of the axle. So you need to get weighed at each tire position. So why not just weigh at, say, each axle position? Well, let's think about this. If I just got a weight across an axle, and let's say that my tires are rated for 3,000 pounds each. And let's say that I weighed across the axle and I am at, say, 6,000 pounds. So across the axle, it appears that I'm okay. But then if we went in and weighed at each tire position, what if this tire was holding 4,000 pounds and this tire was holding 2,000 pounds? So you can see really quickly how important it is to weigh at each tire position, because it can be misleading to just weigh it by axle. And then, of course, this kind of answers the next question of, well, why can't I just weigh my entire RV? Well, that may be good to make determinations about gross vehicle weight ratings and things like that, but as far as your tires are concerned, you're really going to need to weigh it at each tire position. Now, once you do this, you take that weight and you want the same pressure across an axle. So if this tire was holding 4,000 pounds and this tire was holding 2,000 pounds, you would want to go with the pressure of the tire that was holding the higher weight across that axle. So take that weight. Each tire has a manufacturer's tire inflation chart, and it will just simply tell you if there's this much weight on a tire, here's the PSI that needs to go into that tire. And then that's what you need to do across that axle. So make sure that you do that. So let's talk about, what if you have not been weighed yet? Well, you need to plan to get weighed, first of all. But if you haven't got weighed yet, underinflation is much worse than overinflation. Underinflation generates a lot of heat on the tire, and heat is generally the death of a tire. A tire can really start to break down at about 200 degrees, and low pressure, underinflation, and ambient temperatures outside can really drive that heat up. So again, underinflation is worse than overinflation. So if you haven't been weighed, then you need to run the maximum tire pressure that the tire is rated for. So you can find this on the outside of your tire. It'll just say, hey, your maximum PSI is 120 at maximum load. Now, you don't know if you're at maximum load yet because you haven't been weighed. Oftentimes people find that when they get weighed, they're actually overloaded. So if you haven't been weighed, go with the max, and then just plan on getting weighed as soon as you can. So here's some frequently asked questions that we get. Once the tires heat up, this is going to drive up the pressure in the tires. And how much would you expect to see increase in pressure as you go down the road? And it's pretty common to see 12 to 15% increase. But if you have extreme temperatures outside, remember those temperatures really drive the heat up, and the heat drives the pressure up. You could easily see 20 to 25% increase. Now, Another question we get asked is, well, what's too much, and is it okay to run over the maximum of what the tire says that you're allowed to run? So on your sidewall, let's say it says you can run at 120. That's at cold tire pressure. Before you start running down the road, say it's 120. Well, if you put 120 in it, start rolling down the road, you could go to 140, and that's okay. The tire engineers that have built the tire inflation charts are very well aware that the PSI will drive up once you start going down the road, and that's all built into it, and that's okay. So another question that I get asked is once that tire pressure starts going up, how much over the max tire pressure, cold tire pressure of that tire is okay? And I've talked to many tire engineers about this question, and the bottom line is that assuming that there's no damage to the tire, any internal damage, and it's a good tire, that you would likely have your rim would likely fail before the tire would actually fail, just from overinflation. So I wouldn't so much worry about as the temperature starts to go up and your PSI starts to go up, because the tire can handle it, assuming there's no internal damage to the tire. So where do you get weighed at each tire position? Well, the Escapees group has something called Smart Weigh. You can often find these at RV rallies. They'll often have weighing sessions going on. Or also the RV SEF, the Safety Education Foundation. Oftentimes they'll be at RV rallies. The Escapees group Smart Weigh actually has permanent locations. You can just go to escapees.com, look up Smart Weigh, and you can find their permanent locations. And these groups are the ones that will actually weigh you at tire position, and that way when you leave that session, you'll know what your tire pressure should be in each tire. So what about the CAT scales at travel centers? Well, a lot of times the CAT scales will weigh you biaxial, and then some of them that I've seen are just one pad that you drive on and it just weighs the entire RV or truck. And so if you have nothing else, then that's better than nothing. You're not going to get that complete accuracy that you would by weighing at each tire position, but it will tell you a lot about just being overweight in general, if you are overweight from a gross vehicle standpoint. So if you don't have time, or you're not in a location where you can get weighed at by tire position, then sure, go to the CAT scales and at least go ahead and get an idea of what your overall RV weighs. So I hope this has been helpful. And I hope that it helps you in determining what your proper tire pressure should be in your RV or your truck.